15-second hook, opening for narration. In the dead of night, far from city lights, people have come face to face with something they were never meant to see. Shapes too large to be human. Eyes glowing where no eyes should exist. Footsteps that follow, but never reveal what's walking behind you. These are not campfire stories. These are real encounters, witnessed by ordinary people who swear they saw monsters. And once you hear what they experienced, you may never look into the darkness the same way again. Part 1. The world has always had its dark corners, places where the road ends, the signal dies, and the silence feels heavier than it should. In those places, people don't talk about monsters casually. They whisper, because what they've seen still follows them long after the encounter is over. It begins in the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, where rain falls so often that the ground never fully dries. Sheriff Daniel Mercer had patrolled these woods for over 20 years. He knew every logging road, every abandoned cabin, every sound an animal was supposed to make. That's why the call he received one autumn night didn't sit right with him. A family reported something circling their home, something tall, something walking upright, something that screamed like a wounded man. When Mercer arrived, the family was waiting outside, huddled together under the porch light. The father kept repeating the same words. "It's still out there." The mother was shaking so badly she could barely speak. Their teenage son stared into the tree line, refusing to turn his back. Mercer stepped into the darkness with his flashlight and service weapon. The forest felt wrong. Too quiet. No insects. No wind. Then he heard it, a slow, deliberate crunch of leaves, far heavier than any deer. He called out, identifying himself. No response. Just the sound of breathing. Deep. Wet. Close. When the beam of his flashlight caught movement, Mercer froze. What stood between the trees was massive, at least 8 feet tall, its shoulders broad, its body covered in dark, matted hair. Its eyes reflected the light with an intelligence that made his stomach drop. This wasn't an animal acting on instinct. This thing was watching him. For a moment that felt like an hour, neither moved. Then the creature stepped back, melting into the forest as if it had never been there. Mercer returned to his patrol car without another word. He filed no official report. But years later, his hands still trembled when he spoke about that night. "I've worn a badge my whole life," he said quietly. "And I've never felt fear like that." Stories like Mercer's don't exist in isolation. Across the world, hunters, police officers, and families tell eerily similar tales of towering shapes, unnatural speed, and eyes that burn themselves into memory. In rural Appalachia, a group of hunters tracking deer at dawn found footprints that stopped them cold. The prints were enormous, human-like, and spaced far too widely apart. One hunter laughed nervously, suggesting a prank. Then they heard branches snapping uphill, fast. Too fast. Something was running toward them. They never saw what chased them. They didn't need to. The sound alone was enough. When they reached their trucks, one man collapsed, vomiting from shock. Later, he admitted something else haunted him more than the fear. "It smelled us," he said. Like it knew exactly where we were. In the deserts of the American Southwest, a Navajo elder spoke of a creature that stalks lonely highways at night. Drivers report seeing a tall, pale figure running beside their cars at impossible speeds. Some say it keeps pace at 70 miles per hour, turning its head slowly to look directly at them. A truck driver named Luis experienced it firsthand. He laughed when others told the story. Until one night, on a stretch of road with no lights for miles, he saw movement in his side mirror. At first, he thought it was a trick of exhaustion. Then the figure matched his speed. Its limbs bent wrong. Its face was blank. When Luis slammed the brakes, the thing didn't stop. It simply vanished into the dark. Luis pulled over and cried. Not because he was tired. Because he knew what he saw wasn't human. Scientists argue that fear distorts perception, that darkness and stress can make the mind invent threats. But that explanation begins to crack when witnesses have no connection to one another, when their stories match in detail, emotion, and terror. The same descriptions surface again and again. Height beyond human limits. Eyes shine like animals, but intelligent. Movements that defy biology. And a feeling shared by nearly every witness, the certainty that they were being hunted. These encounters leave more than memories. They leave physical traces. Broken branches far above human reach. Massive footprints that appear overnight and vanish by morning. Claw marks gouged into trees. And sometimes, strange vocalizations recorded on audio equipment, sounds that don't match any known species. As reports accumulate, investigators begin to ask a dangerous question. What if these creatures aren't myths passed down through folklore? What if legends were warnings? Because if even one of these stories is true, it means something unknown has been walking beside humanity this entire time, hidden in plain sight, just beyond the reach of light. And whatever it is, it doesn't want to be found. Part 2. In northern Canada, where winter can swallow entire towns in silence, a seasoned wildlife biologist named Dr. Elaine Porter was called to investigate a series of livestock mutilations. At first glance, the wounds resembled predator attacks, but something didn't add up. The cuts were too precise. The animals had been drained of blood, and the tracks surrounding the bodies were unlike anything she had seen in her career. One evening, while documenting a site near the tree line, Porter felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. She dismissed it as nerves until the forest answered back. A low, guttural sound rolled through the trees, not a growl, not a howl, but something closer to speech twisted into something primal. Her assistant whispered, "Did you hear that?" Before Porter could respond, something massive moved just beyond their lantern light. The ground vibrated with each step. Whatever it was, it circled them slowly, deliberately. Porter raised her camera, her hands shaking, and snapped a photo just as a tall silhouette emerged briefly from the darkness. The image was blurry, but the shape was unmistakable. They left immediately. Later analysis of the photograph revealed proportions that shouldn't exist. Arms too long, torso too broad, legs bent at an unnatural angle. Porter never published the findings. Her colleagues advised her to let it go. Some things, one told her, are better left unexplained. Across the ocean, in the dense jungles of Southeast Asia, villagers speak of a creature known only as the Tall One. Children are warned never to wander alone after sunset. Not because of wild animals, but because the Tall One watches from the trees, waiting for someone to stray too far. A family living near the jungle's edge learned this lesson the hard way. Late one night, their youngest daughter woke screaming. She insisted something had been standing outside her window. When the father checked, he found deep impressions in the mud, bare footprints, each longer than his forearm. The next night, the family heard knocking. Slow, rhythmic, not at the door but on the walls, moving, following them from room to room. When they fled the house, neighbors saw it too, a towering shadow stepping back into the jungle, its eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. The family never returned. What makes these stories chilling isn't just fear, it's consistency. Different cultures, different continents, same descriptions. Even in modern cities, the encounters continue. Security guards in industrial zones report shadowy figures scaling fences without effort. Surveillance footage captures shapes moving against the laws of physics, disappearing mid-frame, reappearing seconds later hundreds of feet away. Skeptics say it's technology failure, optical illusion. But when multiple cameras fail at the same moment, experts begin to hesitate. A retired detective in Eastern Europe recalled an investigation involving a missing hiker. Search teams found the man's belongings neatly arranged in a clearing. No signs of struggle, no body. But surrounding the site were massive footprints leading in and none leading out. The detective stood in that clearing for hours. Whatever took him, he later said, didn't want to hide. It wanted us to know it was there. These creatures don't behave like animals. They don't kill to eat. They observe. They test boundaries. They appear, vanish, and leave behind confusion instead of answers. Some researchers believe these beings may be remnants of an unknown branch of evolution. Others suggest interdimensional entities, creatures not bound by our understanding of space or time. The most unsettling theory proposes that they are intelligent predators, fully aware of humanity and choosing when to be seen. Eyewitnesses often describe the same haunting detail, the moment of eye contact. The realization that the creature understands them, knows fear, knows weakness. A hunter in Montana described it best. It didn't attack me, he said. It just stood there, like it wanted me to remember it. And remember, he does. As science struggles to explain what logic refuses to accept, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. These encounters aren't fading. They're increasing. And whatever is out there, it's getting closer. Part 3. In the remote mountains of South America, a group of explorers searching for ancient ruins stumbled upon something far older than stone. Their guide stopped suddenly, raising his hand. The jungle had gone silent again. Birds vanished. Insects stopped. Silence, complete and absolute. Then came the smell. Rot. Wet earth. Something living that should not exist. One of the explorers laughed nervously, trying to break the tension. That's when a scream tore through the trees, not human, but close enough to make their blood run cold. Something massive crashed through the undergrowth, circling them with impossible speed. They never saw it clearly, but they felt it. The pressure in the air. The sense of being surrounded by something intelligent and furious. When they returned, shaken and empty-handed, the guide refused to speak about what happened. He quit the jungle entirely. Back in the United States, a mother in rural Ohio woke to her dogs barking wildly. She looked out her kitchen window and saw a tall figure standing at the edge of her property. It didn't move. It didn't hide. It simply watched. When she screamed, it tilted its head, as if curious, and stepped backward into the cornfield. The next morning, the corn was flattened in a wide circle, as though something heavy had stood there for hours. She moved away weeks later. Across countless interviews, one detail remains constant. These creatures choose when to reveal themselves. They don't attack often. But when they do, there are no witnesses left to speak. Missing persons cases cluster around forests, mountains, and deserts. Places where human footprints end suddenly. Places where search dogs refuse to go. A park ranger in Alaska described finding a camp abandoned mid-meal. A fire still warm. No signs of struggle. Just enormous tracks leading into the snow, then vanishing. Experts attempt to rationalize. But even they struggle with one terrifying possibility. What if these beings are studying us? Observing patterns. Learning routines. Testing fear. If that's true, then folklore wasn't imagination. It was documentation. Warnings passed down through generations to stay out of the dark. Because something else lives there. And it has always been watching. Part 4. As technology advances, so do the sightings. Thermal cameras capture heat signatures that don't match known animals. Drones record figures moving through forests at night, then abruptly losing signal. A research team in Nevada tracked one such anomaly to a canyon known for disappearances. As night fell, their equipment began malfunctioning. Batteries drained instantly. Radios crackled with static. Then one researcher screamed. He claimed something stood behind him, silent, enormous, and breathing. When the team rushed to him, they found claw marks gouged into solid rock. No animal could do that. In Australia's outback, Aboriginal elders speak of beings older than humanity itself. Creatures that walk between worlds. Creatures that punish those who wander where they don't belong. Western science dismisses these stories as myth. But myth doesn't leave footprints. Myth doesn't knock on doors. Myth doesn't look you in the eyes. One survivor of a nighttime encounter summed it up best. "I don't need proof," she said. "I know what fear feels like. And that fear wasn't imagination. As more people come forward, the question grows louder. If monsters aren't real, why do so many people see the same ones? Part 5. The line between legend and reality is thinner than we want to believe. For centuries, humanity has told stories of creatures lurking just beyond the firelight. We told ourselves they weren't real, that science had erased them. But the forests are still deep. The darkness is still vast. And something still moves within it. These encounters don't offer answers. They offer reminders that despite our technology, our cities, and our certainty, there are places we do not control. Places where something else watches, waits, and sometimes steps forward. As Monster Quest returns to uncover the world's most chilling encounters, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Some legends never died. They were just hiding. And tonight, somewhere in the dark, something is listening. Outro. And as the final echoes of these encounters fade into silence, one question still lingers in the darkness. Were these witnesses mistaken? Or did they glimpse something humanity was never meant to understand? Across forests, deserts, mountains, and forgotten roads, the evidence remains. Footprints that vanish, screams without a source, and memories that never let go. Science continues its search for answers, but the truth may be far more unsettling than any explanation. Because if these creatures are real, they haven't disappeared. They're still out there, watching from the shadows, waiting for the next moment to be seen. So the next time the night feels too quiet, remember, some mysteries don't want to be solved. They want to be feared.